Jo, hallo Leute und herzlich willkommen zu einem besonderen Video. Vor einiger Zeit habe ich FeenXFire angeschrieben und ihm um ein Interview gebeten. Wenn ihr FeenXFire noch nicht kennt, dann habt ihr euch mit der Balisongszene noch nie beschäftigt oder lebt unter einem Stein. Er zählt zu den absoluten Balisongprofis und hat auch kein Problem damit, beidseitig geschärfte Balisongs zu flippen. FeenXFire und Nardaf sind meine absoluten Vorbilder, was das Balisongflippen anbelangt, und deshalb war es für mich eine große Ehre, ein Interview mit ihm zu führen. Aber genug der Worte, viel Spaß beim Interview.
Hello everyone, here to answer some questions. Number one, who am I? I'm FeenXFire. Everybody calls me Stu. Stuart Hobson is my real name, but everyone calls me Stu. Online it's Phoenix, Feen, you know, your choice, totally up to you. How and when did I start? I started back in May of 2008, and it was just by chance. I was at a flea market, saw a triple C Balisong for sale, had a scorpion on the handle, thought it was cool looking. Always been into knives, so it was like $5, so I bought it, cut myself about an hour later, and I lied to everybody, saying that it wasn't the knife because I didn't want to be shamed, and it's just taken off from there. Love it first cut. What was the hardest part about learning to flip? That was probably learning how to transition moves or link them together seamlessly, keeping it smooth without that pause and interruption. I spent many hours just working on one move over and over and over, trying to get it to work right, you know. What was my biggest mistake at the beginning was probably not taking care of my wounds properly or at all. I did go through a lot of triple C knives because I didn't realize that there were decent knives out there to be had. But in all fairness, at the time there was only the BM 40 series, the Cold Steel Archangel, which were all, I believe, discontinued at that point, but they were still around at a decent price. So I spent probably $400 or $500 just buying a ton of cheap Chinese knives over and over. In my opinion, it's growing. That's not even a question. I mean, it has its ups and downs. Before, we were pretty limited to blade forums, Jersey Devil, Flipping Arena, Balisong Technique forums. But now, I mean, we've got a huge Facebook pages. There's multiples. They're all over Reddit. The YouTube scene has grown tremendously. So no, it's growing. I don't think that it's going to stop growing for some years to come. That we've got too much ground. What do I think about the Balisong community? That's a pretty loaded question. I mean, I love the guys, love everybody. It takes a specific type of person to pick up this hobby, which brings in self-harm, what have you. And the people that do tend to stick with it seem to have certain personality traits in common, which I adore. It keeps everybody honest. There's a lot of pound around, a lot of shit talking, and all in a friendly way, of course. But I love the community. I've gone through a lot of hobbies in my life, been through a lot of communities, but this is the only one I've really stuck with for so long, just because of how I enjoy it. But that's a matter of perspective. It's not for everybody. That's for sure. They tend to weed themselves out, so it's less work for us. My opinion on battles, they're great. They help most people further their progression with the hobby. It helps people learn things, test their boundaries. I think there's more today than there was back in, the glory days of between 2008 and 2010, just because of all the outlets we have. We got the Facebook pages, we have Reddit, there's Instagram. They're all over the place. I think it's a wonderful thing. It brings people together. In my opinion, who are the best flippers I know? That's Jesus. That's a list, man. Or deal. Okay, well, as far as who's current, folks that I grew up with within the community, of course, Slash and Cut. That goes without saying. Who doesn't love Slash and Cut? Nardath, Son of the Bong, Faulty Ply. Those are probably my favorite people from back in the day. As far as new-ish people, Rob Lestage, dude is a freaking Balisong genius. Jeffrey Durr, Billiam Boyd. Lord, I can't even think of everybody now. There's too many names. That's a hell of a question. I could spend this whole interview talking about my favorite flippers. So that's my short list. If I didn't include somebody, it's because I forgot your name. So sorry. What's my favorite Balisong? BM42 T-Latch. Hands down. That's where it's at. It's got perfect balance. The handles are shaped perfectly. That's just my favorite knife. I think that's it does everything right. There's nothing wrong about the BM42. The hardware is good. The blade length is good. The handle length is good. The balance is great. But that's not really around anymore. As far as what you can get these days, the Blade Runner Systems, the BRS Alpha Beast has to be my favorite. It's very different from the 42, of course, but in terms of balance and flippability, I really enjoy that one. It's one of the few knives you can get these days that's just perfect right out of the box. Doesn't need any fine tuning or modding to make it better. It's great right away. Do I keep my Balisong sharp or dull? I keep them sharp. I EDC my I used to EDC my knives when I lived in a state in which they were legal to carry. But it's a knife. Why would you have a dull knife? If you want a dull knife, buy a freaking trainer. I just think that's a little weird for people that keep dull knives. Now, of course, they're not razor sharp. I don't like the blade looking at my skin the wrong way and splitting me open. They're definitely not, razors, but they are sharp. I use them for cutting things. So I just don't like getting myself cut 100 times a day because I make a slight mistake. Man, really the biggest thing for me is the shape of the handles. I like them to be pretty symmetrical or square. I don't like them to be really rectangular or oblong. The Kimura and the Basilisk R are two very different knives, but very, very good examples of what I dislike in a knife. The handles were either too long this way or too long that way. So something symmetrical. The 42, the 51, the bare bones, the Alpha Beast, even Jerry Halm's knives have good handles on them. Outside of that, I don't like curved handles. I don't care what the blade looks like. I do prefer to have a T-latch though. If it has a spring latch, I usually take the spring out just because I'm old and I like T-latches, and that's really about all I look for. It's not a huge list. I think trainers, everybody can agree they teach bad habits. But for some people, it's not really an option, especially people that live in a state or country in which a real Balisong is illegal. So if you want to do filming, which is best done outdoors, then to stay within limits of the law, a trainer is perfectly acceptable. Really, legal reasons are the only reason I believe you should have a trainer or carry a trainer, flip with a trainer, whatever you want to call it. Otherwise, they're bad. They're bad in the long run of things. It happens to the best of us. Everybody that's been around for more than 5 years has lost their motivation at some point or another. If for the most part, it just kind of comes back. Certain life events, changes in life, anything can kind of take away from the attention you pay to a Balisong. But it always comes back. You just have to pick it up and just throw around the same tricks you've been doing. Don't worry about learning anything new. Just pick it up and get back into it. Just refamiliarize yourself with the knife. It'll come back to you. It always does. How did I become so good? Practice. I practiced a lot, especially when the first 2 or 3 years of flipping, I probably flipped on average anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a day. I mean, it was before I went to work, it was on my lunch break, it was after I got home from work, my days off, that was pretty much all I did. So practice. You're going to hear me say that a lot. Practice. Practice makes perfect. Practice. Just keep doing it over and over. Just keep throwing it. You're going to mess up 98% of the time. But once you get past that 98% into the 2%, it's just a matter of smoothing it out and perfecting it. There's no good answer to that. Just practice. Just keep doing it. You'll get it. Do I have trouble learning tricks? Yeah, I do. Especially things like transfers. For some reason, transfers and me just we don't get along up here. Fanning is another one of those things that's kind of bizarre to me. I'm usually into the chaplains and rollovers and things. Good example, Sir Horse Choker. His arsenal, his style is so much different than mine. I went through a spurt where I did nothing but watch Sir Horse Choker videos trying to learn his style, and it was just a mess. There wasn't enough time in the world for me to practice to be able to nail down that style at that point in time anyways. So transfers and aerials definitely, or transfers and fanning rather, definitely my weak spot. And just not for me. Not for me. It's okay. Not all tricks are for everybody. What are the first tricks anybody should learn? 8-ball, helix, and a basic aerial. I say skip past the openings. Those will come with the 8-ball and helix. But the 8-ball teaches you the fundamentals of chaplains and rollovers and things. The helix as well, but on a different level. And then once you're able to consistently pull off the 2 tricks, you can actually do them together to create one combo. And then the aerial, of course, is always the best way to end a combo. So anybody that learns 8-ball, helix, and aerial before anything else certainly have a leg up on anybody else that's trying to practice other things. In my opinion, I believe that everybody should start with a piece of junk Chinese piece of crap, just because you don't want to spend a whole lot of money at first, because it may not be the hobby for you, and I'd hate to see somebody be out $300 or $400 just because they wanted to start right away. No, start with a cheap knife. Learn if it's good for you or not. If so, buy a more expensive knife, something that'll last you longer. And starting with the Chinese piece of junk will also help you appreciate the next knives much better. I usually wipe them off with a paper towel at first, spray some Bactine on it, let that dry out, and then I usually super glue it, or depending on where the cut is, I may even just wrap a Band-Aid around it. No special tricks there. It is important to use some type of antibacterial, whether it be Neosporin or Bactine or an alcohol pad, but that is very important. That is something I learned a long time ago, so don't just super glue it right away. You're causing more harm than good, I promise. Practice. Instead of asking how to do this, practice. Figure it out yourself. It'll make you feel more accomplished. You'll feel better about the trick. If you ever go filming away from the house, always take with you a bottle of lube, a toothbrush, and a Torx kit. That'll save you a ton of headache if anything were to happen to the Balisong at all while you were, miles away from home. Other than that, that's all I got for you. You guys keep flipping.
Ich hoffe, das Video hat euch Spaß gemacht. Falls ihr des öfteren mal ein Interview sehen möchtet, dann lasst es mich wissen. Es war zwar eine Riesenarbeit, das ganze Video zu schneiden, aber es hat Spaß gemacht und ich hoffe, ihr konntet was lernen. Zudem möchte ich nochmals Stu für das Interview danken. Den Link zu seinem Kanal findet ihr natürlich in der Videobeschreibung. Vergesst natürlich nicht, ein Abo dazulassen und schreibt mir mal eure Meinung zum Interview in die Kommentare. Habt einen tollen Tag, euer DirtyCross. Ciao.